Halo is a pretty cool guy. Wouldn't you agree, Matt Buzzy?
He's a really cool guy with a really cool suit.
He fights
Mr.
aliens,
Halo.
doesn't afraid of anything.
He doesn't afraid of anything. He's real and strong and my friend.
Yep. And we're talking about your friend today. Your friend's latest adventure coming soon to all sorts of platforms. Today on the Pop Off PC Mags show, we talk about video games. I'm Drew Miner. You're still Matt Buzzy, even after the end of that conversation. You have not transformed yet into Master Chief.
No, I can only hope to. Maybe if I play more Halo Infinite, which I'm now unable to do because its technical preview period came to an end. About a weekend's long time frame, they allowed a certain number of applicants to play this technical preview, which is not quite a beta, small slice of the game, an old build of the game. But yeah, it's a fairly exclusive group.
Now, in a different universe, we could have all been playing the full version of this game a good 8 months ago, back when they were saying it was going to be a launch title for the Xbox Series S and X. Obviously, that didn't happen. The game needed some more work, but it's a game that exists. You've played it. So what are your kind of immediate thoughts having played? So it was just, so what exactly did you get to play exactly?
So they put a build in, they made a menu, they let you access the menus to customize your character, even though a lot of that stuff is still locked. They gave you some of the cosmetics to unlock. The store with like fake money they gave you just to test the store out. And then otherwise for actual gameplay, it was a firing range to practice with the different guns and kind of 3 different levels of challenges for each weapon. And they'll give you, there's like a star rating and a score on finishing the challenges across all weapons with some bots running around, which segues into my next thing. Bots are new to Halo Infinite. Never before used
in any Halo game ever.
Never before used in any previous Halo game. They are in the firing range to shoot at for the scores. It's not targets, it's bots, some of which move, some of which don't. And then in the multiplayer, which is the other component, the main component really of the technical preview, was multiplayer that was bots only for most of the period. They did towards the end let you do actual player versus players, about 2 or 3 hours of actual matchmaking. Otherwise, it was 4 players on a team. You were still playing with other humans, but you were always fighting against bots, and that was for the majority of the technical preview period until the last couple hours of the second to last day. They were like, all right, let's put real matches, 4v4 players live, and let people sort of run around and see how that is.
Cool. So you got to try out all that. You got to play against bots. Did you play against real people toward the end of it?
Yeah, I got time in both of those. Definitely more fun with people. The bots, they did a difficulty sort of tiering up throughout the period. They were really easy to start, and they ratcheted up the difficulty, I think, once and then again later. The bots showed some decent AI. I think they showed some like kind of intelligent decision making at times. I've seen a couple articles saying, wow, the bots were really good. I'm not sure I totally agree. I've played all the Halos a lot, and I am mostly a multiplayer focused player. And at that, a more like I play the hardcore or like the NLG playlist back in Halo 3, like the hardcore playlist. So I played a lot. I'm pretty good at the game. The bots were not amazing. I didn't think they were like replicating a really good player. I definitely got killed a lot more playing against actual humans in that period. Plus, humans are just more unpredictable. They're more dynamic. Other than giving
with any multiplayer or anything.
Yeah, other than giving bots like perfect aim, it's kind of hard to replicate the unpredictability of an actual human player. And yeah, so the bots were serviceable. I think people are new. It's a great way to train up and use the different difficulties and kind of get used to the guns. And for a lot of the players, I don't think I'm like the best average example, for the average player. The bots are probably a fine way to have like a competitive game or get used to the game. You can ratchet up the difficulty, presumably, when you play actual matches as you go. Use it to do, like, I don't know if the game has local play, but if there's local play versus the bots or online co-op with your friends against the bots because you don't feel like you're quite up to snuff to do the player versus player matchmaking. I did definitely find the player versus player matchmaking more fun. And yeah, there was a couple maps that were rotated out throughout the period. They let you use a pretty wide variety of the weapons. The different maps had some different spawn pads to pick up the different power weapons, and you always start with a pistol and an AR. The maps were okay. The maps were a little plain. One of them was more visually interesting, but I didn't think it was that like great of a map. Kind of the Bazaar map, which is one like central market area, and then some back alley type things.
How was it in terms of like being sort of open? I mean, this is kind of more of a campaign thing, I guess, but like something that's always impressed me about Halo is its willingness to be kind of open in its levels.
Definitely definitely closed off arena maps. Pretty small. I think a good few of the Halo 5 maps felt larger than a lot of these did. Definitely on the smaller side. One was bigger than the other two. But a little plain visual design, very like standard generic military looks on
what were you
two
playing
of the
on?
maps.
You playing on PC?
I was playing on PC. Yeah, I was playing on PC. It does look great, like visually, even if the map design wasn't the most interesting. The like technical stuff on the higher settings, the lighting and the textures and everything.
Because that was, I mean,
really
that
good.
was some speculation as to why it got delayed. Because you know they had that thing last year, and there were all the memes, and people were like,
Yeah, I am curious how the campaign looks and what you do, and still a lot of unanswered questions about the campaign. As far as the multiplayer, though, overall, encouraging. I think it looks good. It plays like a good mix of older and newer Halo. I think the Halo 5, Halo 4 period had some fans being like, this doesn't feel like classic Halo. It's not floaty enough. I personally,
I mean, that's when they switched to an entirely new developer.
343 made it. They tried to get a little more Call of Duty-like instead of, because that was kind of eating into their market at that point. I liked how Halo 5 played a lot. I think that game was fundamentally underrated. It was fun. The pistol was snappy. That game just felt good. This is sort of a mix, I would say, between like a Reach and a 3 and Halo 5. It definitely feels like 5, but it feels more like the older Halos than 5 did. It's a little weighty. You can sprint, you can clamber like you can in 5, but it's not quite as fast. There's a slide jump, but it's just not quite as fast paced. I think it's a pretty good pace. It feels like a good mix of older and newer. The guns feel good. The pistol is a 7-shot kill, which makes me think it's not going to be like a primary weapon. 5, they really wanted you to run with the pistol and use it as your main thing. But it shoots really fast, but it's 7 shots to kill, so you really got to like hit a lot. So it makes me think like the AR they hand most players will be like the main gun because it's a little easier to use. You do the full auto spray, and the BRs for like the hardcore playlists. You'll probably pick up the battle rifle and use that. The pistol is a true like backup weapon.
That was a lot very quickly. Someone not as immersed in it. It was a lot to take in. But
before I tell you more thoughts.
Right. So Halo 5 was like 6 years ago at this point?
Something like that. Yeah, it was. This is definitely a big gap, as you mentioned, because this got delayed.
Yeah. So do you feel like it's been that they've taken their time? Like, does it feel like the result of a developer taking their time and really trying to like overhaul some things, listen to feedback? Like, is it more than just like an extension of Halo 5?
Yes, I do think it seems. I think that studio does as much as they could have done more for 5 to support it and update it quicker. I think they do listen. And I think they do see what kind of happened with 5 and why people didn't like totally attach to it. I think the campaign will do a lot of the heavy lifting though for getting people like invested in whether or not it like feels like Halo. And I kind of think the multiplayer maybe not been totally done because it definitely could use some more polish still, but that was always going to be kind of the same thing. They just were going to tune the run speed and the guns and the stuff like that, like balancing stuff and how it feels. So that they probably took a good amount of the feedback they got from 5 and sort of adjusted it back to this slightly more Halo-y feeling experience. But yeah, I do get the sense that from comments they've done in the interviews and their live streams that they sort of have their head in the right place for what players want, doing the battle pass, letting you go back to the old battle pass. There's a ton of customization options both for your controller, for accessibility, like the player outlines, for customizing your character, all these things that add up to a lot of player choice and makes me feel like between that and supporting esports sort of from the jump, they have people from every department sort of doing input onto like this holistic package of like, we want the campaign to be cool and new, and we don't know a lot about that, but we also are making sure the matchmaking is good. The multiplayer is free to play, which is obviously huge. And
right, I was gonna say that's a big change for them. Is that it's like almost like it's like a separate package. Like you can just get into that.
When you're competing against Apex and Warzone and these games that are just completely free to play, it's probably a good idea. And there's some people who only play multiplayer, some people only play the campaign. So people might buy the campaign, people might do both or only touch the multiplayer, which is free. So I think that's a smart way to get people trying it out, streaming it, get invested. I think they have sort of taken this time, taken a step back and been like, what does a Halo game need to look like in 2021 to actually live? I think the fact they didn't put a number on it.
To not just live, but also sell our new consoles again. Like Halo, again, like without the first Halo, there would be no Xbox. It would just be Blinks, the Time Detective, and Voodoo Vince.
Cameo, Elements of Power.
That was a 360 game.
It was.
Grabbed by the Ghoulies was that rare game on Xbox. We talked about the bots. We talked about free to play. We talked about kind of how they've merged some attributes from past Halo games. But is there any kind, I guess, kind of like, at least in this preview, like one thing or one change that you would point to as like, this is the new thing. Here's like something fresh and stand out. Or do you think that'll just be the campaign?
I think separate, because it's all speculation. I do think the campaign will be the one thing to differentiate this game from the past ones in some way. Maybe it's just a more realistic imagining of what the Halo 1 campaign felt like in your head when it came out, especially if you were younger, like me when it came out.
Famous ancient game.
Famous 15-year-old game, Halo, yeah. Whatever it was, 20, God. Yeah, I think that game felt bigger, more expansive, open world. In reality, it was a fairly large campaign map that you didn't see from a lot of shooters, and that did feel revolutionary. Going back now, it's like, oh yeah, these are fairly open, but they're also closed off open fields that don't have a ton of explorability. I think maybe this campaign will be like truly interconnected, a map you can really roam around. They're not closed off levels, but that's all speculation. So that aside, yes, I think the campaign probably will be different, but also kind of what we thought it was, just a more realized version of that. As far as matchmaking and multiplayer, I don't actually think so. I think there's nothing I'm like, whoa, this is crazy for Halo. It's all either ideas from past games, particularly 5, or a couple new takes on things we've seen before. But I don't really think there's any one feature that's like, wow, this is totally new to Halo. It's gonna like totally change how you play this game. No, it's like they took sprint, they took clamber, they took power-ups. There's a few tweaks like, oh, you don't show up on the radar if you're walking instead of just when you're sprinting or shooting. There's stuff like the power-ups you pick up and then you don't use them instantly if you pick up the overshield. You pick it up and you carry it around with you and you press a button to deploy it on yourself. That's different than like camo and overshield getting picked up right away. But like all this stuff is in some fashion something we've seen in Halo before. There's nothing that's like, this is a crazy new addition, except for the customization stuff, except for the battle pass stuff. There's been some of the customization stuff before. Now you can customize the AI in your suit, its appearance and its voice, more gun skins and things like that.
You're like your own like Cortana lady.
Mm-hmm. Like it could be like a little pyramid or a little sphere you hold in your hand.
A little cube I have in my chest.
Yeah, okay. Pretty much. Cool. So that's technically new, but yeah,
that all sounds very granular.
Yeah, that's just greater levels of customization of weapon skins, character skins, armor pieces, all the stuff they've done before, and they might implement it better. I think it's just this whole package is going to add up to a hopefully better version of the Halos they've made, even if it's not quite the old ones where it's really floaty and it's just this game that feels like Halo, which I think.
It's
sounds like
it's a proven success.
Exactly, that might sound like it's Halo. Not new, but people didn't feel like the last ones were Halo-y enough. So hopefully this matches some balance of what modern players are looking for, and for fans who want something to feel like Halo. And I think overall, the bottom line is my personal opinion, and from most of what I saw from feedback from this preview, was that people really liked it. I liked it. I thought it played well. People in tweet replies and Twitch chat more likely to be kind of toxic than not, but almost every time I saw the account or the devs or anybody tweet something, the replies were like, this is so much fun, don't end it. Like, I'm having a blast. Like, Twitch chat. Like, everyone seemed to be having a pretty good time. As I said, I followed the multiplayer scene for a while. Pretty much all the pro players I was watching stream it who haven't had any new Halo to play for years, or are really thirsty for a game to be good. They're either playing Master Chief Collection, like Halo 3 money tournaments, which is almost sad, or people still playing Halo 5 just because there's nothing else to play. And they all were like
melee of Halo.
Basically. And they were all like, yeah, this is fun. It feels great. I'm so happy to have something to play. It feels good. And there's some complaints. There's some granularity in there I can get into, but I think it could use some polish. It's not done. This build, I think, was already 2 months old from what they're currently up to, because they got it ready to release for this preview. So hopefully things are changed, some UI stuff. The medals aren't like that exciting looking. Sniper could use a little work. But overall, I think like this is a good foundation after this several year period wait, and especially the E3 showing that people were not impressed by 2 E3s ago, where people were really cautious about what this game would look and feel like. And I think a lot of that's been relieved. It's like, hey, it's a fun Halo game that's free, and hopefully
imagine that. Remember those?
Yeah, right.
Have they said, are they doing any more of these previews or betas before the game comes out? I mean, there's no new Crackdown coming out. So
no new Crackdown to package it with. No. Yeah. I think so. I think there's going to be planned multiple waves of these previews, and maybe then like a bigger like actual beta that they'll call a beta. But I'm not positive on that or the timing. I don't think they've said. But by all
for
accounts,
Game Pass subscribers, you can get onto the beta. That's the
man.
new Game Pass is the new Crackdown.
That's right.
Cool. So that all sounds very encouraging. Halo Infinite, it's probably coming out in like November, right?
Something they
like
said
that.
currently holidays. I think November is traditionally a big Halo launch month.
Mm-hmm.
So November, maybe December. If it's delayed again, that'd be pretty disappointing. But I also
you
do
can't.
want them.
No one can get these consoles anyway.
Yeah, I do want them to get it right. And if the campaign, since I can see where the multiplayer's at and it's good, and even then I can see some room to improve it. I firmly believe that making this campaign bigger and better and tweaking it more definitely takes more time and investment. So depending on where that is at, because we really have no idea. Another delay is another question. I just don't think they can afford to do it again. I think
they've already made noise about it being like a game as a service anyway, and that they can very much just hey, the multiplayer is out right now, and then like the first part of the campaign is out in like March or whatever, and then
that might be wise. I just don't think they can afford to launch a campaign that's like bad or broken. I think a lot of people...
my thoughts on games as a service in general. But they think what they could do versus what I want them to do or not.
That is never good to release something that like isn't good, but they'll say they'll fix later. But I think for Halo in particular, it has sort of a make or break chance to like get people to care about it again. That they can't release a campaign that's going to underwhelm people, or these like 15-year-olds who've never played like Halo 3 won't ever care about this franchise if like the one they played after hearing its name for years is like not even good. So yeah.
All right, but you sound pretty enthusiastic about it. You seem pretty impressed. We'll have to see where it all goes when Halo Infinite comes out at some point soon, hopefully in our lives. I'm sure we'll have plenty of coverage on PCMag.com. But in the meantime, Buzzy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk to you next time.